Welcome back, everyone. I hope you were able to grab a coffee. So we are at our next session, which is the panel discussions. And we're going to deal with this topic, challenges within leadership and how to go about it. The best leader you have known and why. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this session, we are going to hear from research leaders from different groups and countries in this panel discussion. And the first speaker of this early afternoon in Senegal here, maybe morning somewhere, is Dr. Akinde Nji. Who is Dr. Akinde? Dr. Akinde is a senior lecturer of biostatistics in the Department of Biochemistry at the University of Yaoundé 1 in Cameroon, as head of the Clinical and Laboratory Data Management Unit at the Biochemistry Center of this university. Dr. Akinde has played a major role in the design and running of clinical trials on anti-malaria drugs. He has been consultant, clinical data monitor for WHO sponsored clinical trial entitled Fixed Dose Combination Therapy of 4 pulmonary tuberculosis drugs with sites in Ethiopia and Nigeria. Dr. Akinde has expertise in study design, experimental studies, including KAP studies. Research methodology has given him an opportunity to sit at the Biotechnology Center of University of Yaoundé 1 Ethic Board. He is a member of the Society of Epidemiology in Cameroon and the network of modelers in infectious disease. Dr. Akinde is author and co-author of more than 25 peer-reviewed articles. His research interest and focus is using mathematics, statistics, to model the control and elimination of malaria in Cameroon and other endemic countries with varying intervention and transmission patterns. Dr. Akinde is currently a postdoc with the Malaria Research and Capacity Building Consortium for the West and Central Africa. Wow. He is member of the Modeling and the Simulation Hub for Africa of the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Last but not least, Dr. Akinde is currently a member of the International Consortium for Modeling of COVID-19, COMO Consortium, and is member of the Task Force on the Development of the COVID-19 Pandemic Modeling for the Pan-African Union Scientific, Technical, and Research Commission. Wow. So ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Akinde, who is going to be our next speaker. So Dr. Akinde, no more speech here. The floor is all yours.
I must say that the speech was exaggerated. But thank you so much, Dr. Jean. Thank you so much for those kind words. This afternoon, the last part of this session, we were supposed to maybe share from our own feelings, how we look at leadership, but then also use one of those that have marked us in their leadership qualities in our research life. And before I get on to talk about this leader that has marked me, let me say that for a while now, in Africa, in fact, in most French countries, the leader is often called chef, to mean the chief. In Nigeria, they will call a leader Oga. And these appellations just speak to the way the leaders expect to be looked upon, and also suggest the kind of relationship between the ones that are led and the one who is leading. I agree with all what the speakers have been saying since yesterday and also today on who a leader should be. I agree in total. And just to emphasize that, in my opinion, a leader should be one who can show with examples, but then also one, it's about mentorship, but it's also about grooming. It's also about creating a copy of us. Now, can you share the slide again? Let me talk about the person who has marked me very much. Okay. Now, a leader that has marked me so much since I had contact with him in 2003, and I was in Mali, is this great and selfless scientist, Professor Ogubara Ndombo, who unfortunately passed on in 2018. Believe me, each time I've met those I perceive to be leaders, especially in science, I've never kept back from sharing one of the things that have marked me in this man. Like others who practice leadership in our continent, he has achieved a lot. He was an inspiration to many young aspiring scientists. In fact, he has quite a lot of achievement on his sleeves. He co-authored over 600 international publications. He led one of the largest malaria research and training teams in Africa, in Mali, and is a founding member of Mali's Academy of Science since 2016. He was a member of the African Academy, but then also he was a medalist of the Société Française de Pathologie Exotique in 2017. He was a member of the National Health Science Ethics Committee, and he was sitting there on behalf of the president of his country, Mali. Professor Ndombo was also Knight of Order of Mali, but Knight of the Academic Palms of Cairns, Officer of Order of Merit of France, and Professor Ndombo's life and accomplishments have been described in obituary in the Lancet and during his lifetime in profiles in the Lancet and Science. So you must be asking, why am I saying all of this? Yes, those were his achievements. Is that what makes for a leader? Not sufficient at all. Accomplishment is not sufficient, in my opinion, to call one a leader. My question would be, who did this man mentor? Who did this man make a copy of? Who did this man bring up from one level to the next? Did this man inspire? And therefore, just achievements, just like any other leadership, leader is not enough. Professor Ndombo was a superb leader and a mentor. His caring and loving and personal touch in the interactions with each of his co-workers and students created a family atmosphere in the workplace. For his co-workers, Professor Ndombo was not only a mentor, but a big brother for some, a father figure, even a grandfather for others. He therefore had a way that he described those he had mentored and those he had taught, or those he had raised and those that he was still raising. He used to call them in terms of generations. And so he had the F1 generation, the F2 generation, and I think before he died, he had the F4 generation. Every moment with him was an opportunity for every scientist that met him. One of the leaders, qualities of a good leader that stood out to me was his drive to build people that looked like him. And I think that is crucial. And hence, he had this appellation, first generation, second generation. So he was forming generations of people. Following his PhD training, Professor Ogo progressively built a team of talented Malian scientists to develop research to control and eliminate malaria. Of course, I know about, and I've met Ogubara Ndombo because for most of the time I've worked on malaria. His F1 generations, that's his first generation of people that he called matured people, are a voice in Africa, in vaccination trials, in drug resistance studies and all that. To exemplify how much his interest was to build people under his leadership and how much he exposed his co-workers. One of his collaborators said this in his passing away. We plan to continue the studies for another few years. But now, because of Ogo's sudden death, I will not be working with him, but I'll be working with his colleague. And this colleague he was talking about was Professor Terra, one of his first generations. You see, there was some passing on. I remember in 2003, when I was first visiting the Malaria Training Center, which he founded, which is found in the Faculty of Medicine in Mali. I went there for a workshop on data management. And I would never forget, there was this young guy who would pick up equipment and laptops and come along in the hall so that the big guys can do their wawa. Forgive me for that term, wawa. I learned it from one of the panelists, the panelists I'm here with, Dr. Wadinga. I mean, they went on with their talk, these big guys. So you prepare laptops, you prepare equipment for the big guys, the knowledgeable guys to present whatever they had to present. But what struck me is that when I came back there for another workshop on clinical data management, Pierre was now an instructor. The leader I'm talking about was a people builder. And for me, that is something that stands out. The Malaria Training Center is not only the #1 training center in malaria, but also in research because of the infrastructure he put in place from hundreds of grants he won.
Yeah.
And because of the quality,
Yes, Dr. Akinde.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I know Professor Ogobara, because it's live presentation, so maybe you can try to conclude and then you'll talk more during the question and answers. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what I was just trying to say is that he built he built a team and raised people from a very low level to a very expert level. And this is something that that comes across of a leader. And he would expose all those he worked with so that he becomes the leader of tomorrow. And that's why I said, no doubt, he's away, but the center still moves on. For me, this is an example of leadership.
Yes, true. I agree that Professor Ogobara is a great example. And as a project manager for Wanitam, he is one of the pioneers of this network in West Africa. And I have a testimony, and if we have time, I'll give this testimony, which shows that Professor Ogobara is indeed one of the good leaders in research in Africa.
I just could have had a testimony, but I would let that for later.
Yeah, well, you can say that probably in the question necessary. So let's go to the second speaker, and then after the speaker, then we have time to, discuss. Well, I will pass the floor to Steve Wadinga, but let me tell you who is Steve. Steve is an epidemiologist and heads the tuberculosis division within the Kenya Medical Research Institute, which is KEMRI. The KEMRI Center for the Global Health Research in Kisumu in Kenya. Steve is currently involved in with investigations around the intersection of infectious and non-communicable diseases. He is a member of the Eastern Africa Consortium for Clinical Research. We have EACCR. This is one of our networks with friends like Bernard and Emily from 2000 to 2009 to date. He coordinates the clinical characterization of COVID-19 patients protocol in Kenya that is part of the ALERRT network. He is the managing editor of No Free Eastern Health Research Journal that is part of the Eastern African Research Consortium. Wow, that's great. And that is a commission with the East African community. Thank you, Steve, for your time. The floor is all yours. So you have 10 minutes, and then we'll go to the next presenter and start the quick question and answers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I hope you can get to hear my voice.
Perfectly, perfectly.
Yes, that scene behind there is, is very typical of Africa. I mean, we have a lot of wildlife. I mean, these are blessings of nature.
Yeah.
That we definitely welcome everybody to be part of. Thanks a lot for that generous introduction. And I think my colleague, Dr. Brenda, Dr. Donald, and Dr. Kinde, who have gone ahead of me, have basically been able to lay the ground for me to take it up from where they were able to make their submissions. I hope that my slides are ready.
Yes, please share shortly.
Yeah, so this morning we wanted to delve into some of the challenges that people get to grapple with when it comes to leadership, and then also attempt to provide some solutions, and finally end with what it takes to come across one of the best leaders in terms of my journey. Yeah, so next slide. So in this schema that you get to see here, basically what I wanted us to derive from these 6 points is, one, when we talk about leadership challenges, distinguishing effectiveness and efficiency seems to be very difficult in this journey. And we need to know that when we are talking about effectiveness, we are basically looking at what is it that makes us produce the desired result. And then when we talk about efficiency, we are talking about time, we are talking about effort, and we are talking about resources. So how are we utilizing time, effort, and resources in an optimal manner? And I think this is something that is always a moving target for many people, not only me, and it's something that we can always get better at. The other point is about inspiring others. Within leadership, you're going to have members of the team. And so because I usually refer to it like a conveyor belt, people get very tired in terms of the routinized environment. And so we need to really balance what it takes to have people satisfied on the job. But at the same time, we also need to look at how can they work smarter. At times we get folks who really work hard, and I think we need to know that there are mechanisms for being smart on the job. And then when we talk about developing teams, I think something that struck me in terms of data and statistics is when we talk about Organization for Economic Cooperation and Developed Countries or Development Countries, that is the OECD countries. It's about 38 member countries. Only 1.1% had PhDs, that is between ages 25 to 64, and that was in 2018. So I think literally we know the OECD countries would be among the high income countries, and probably a few in the middle income level. But if for that grouping of nations, you can already see that 1.1% have a PhD. I usually encourage my team members that you also own a PhD until you say no. So, Chair, definitely what we are bringing out here is there needs to be long-term education, whether it's bachelor's, master's, PhD, postdoc, there needs to be commitment towards that. There needs to be ongoing training, even as we look at avenues for acquiring conventional methods that may not be available in country. At the same time, coaching and mentoring cannot be underscored. At the same time, we need to respond to continuous quality improvement, cyclic schemes that we have, so that our teams can grow from where they are today to where we see them being. Another staggering thing about OECD countries is 52% of females have acquired tertiary education compared to 39% of males. I don't know what our situation is in other parts of the world, but again, it goes to show that there's still a lot that can be done in terms of developing teams, more especially in terms of bringing our female colleagues up to speed in terms of being in leadership positions. Now, in terms of leading a team, I would want to say that leading involves building, it involves development, and it's also involving management. Within 10 minutes, we cannot be able to crack all this, but in brief, we need to see a leader as providing support, being able to effectively engage in collaborative work. At the same time, we need to look at establishing norms, even as teams are led. And we also need to ask ourselves, what does one need to have when they're taking over the leadership of a team? Now, when it comes to guiding change, I would want to say that this speaks to being called as a change leader, but also as a change manager. Most of the times, the environments we have, people want to maintain status quo, but I think there's need for us to now start asking ourselves, how do we manage, mobilize, and understand what it entails to lead and guide change. Then stakeholders will always be very key. We have internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. The main thing there is, how do we ensure that we are effective in terms of getting buy-in of others regarding what we do? Next slide. Now, in terms of addressing this, I wanted to share some of the solutions, but definitely not all. I would want to challenge us that we need to be leaders who model the way. We need to clarify our values, but at the same time, affirm shared ones. We also need to set the example by aligning our actions within our projects to our shared values. We also need to inspire a shared vision. There was a time I was asking our colleagues, how did we get where we got to? And that was in 2012. And so there were no answers coming from my seniors. And so I realized that we were basically just groping, and we could not be able to substantiate what steps got us where we got to. And so I see a leader as being able to envision the future by imagining exciting and newer possibilities, but at the same time enlisting others, because we also need the mission bearers. So much as they are the visionaries, we need to have the mission bearers. At the same time, we need people who can challenge the process, search for new opportunities by seizing initiatives that come, but at the same time looking outward towards innovative ways to improve. I would also want to call on us that we need to experiment and take risks constantly by generating small wins that we can learn from so that we reposition ourselves. We also need to enable others to act. I think this is where delegation comes in. So foster collaboration by building trust that Dr. Brenda talked about. We also need to facilitate working networks. I come from a group of school that says you either network or you not work. So the whole idea is in networking, you also get to receive certain skills and thinking approaches that you may not have as a person. Then we also need to strengthen others by building self-determination and developing competence. Then we need to encourage their heart, and the whole message there is recognize contributions by showing appreciation, of individual and group excellence. There are various ways of doing this, whether it's going to be those month, the employee of the month, the employee of the quarter. There are things that we can always put in place. Next slide. Now, in terms of the best leader I've known and why, I think here I was just trying to communicate to us that it's a multifaceted approach in terms of this person. You will get to realize that in one person, you may not be able to have all this, but definitely there will be individuals who resonate with you in certain areas. But I've appreciated that you need to interact with somebody whose internal locus of control is assured. You want somebody who is all together and not all over the place. At the same time, there is need for integrity, what the person says and what they do. Definitely, they're all in tandem. At the same time, there's need to have flexibility. There are certain situations that come in this journey that if somebody is rigid, then basically it is all lost. Then there's need to have high energy and dynamism. And the whole idea behind that is this journey can be very tiresome. And so in terms of interacting with mentors, it's very crucial for us to continue getting the energy topped up, but at the same time, opening up to things that come and go. Sensitivity to others, I think this has also been alluded to in previous speakers, that we really need to be sensitive. People come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and we need to ensure that as we bring them on board, how is it that we are responding to their backgrounds, to their issues, to their concerns, their inadequacies that keep coming along in this journey within the workplace. And then intelligence, definitely, much as it would be looked at as the cream or at the core, but it's always important to have some lenses that are unusual with which to look at things, so that when we are talking about research questions, how is it that our lenses change from time to time, from pandemic to epidemic, from outbreaks, to lulls where there's nothing really going on? I think there's a lot that we can do. So, Chair, allow me to say that, in terms of my journey, the best leader that I have been able to meet, I wouldn't mention the name, but just to say it's been a combination of various individuals who have brought me to this space. And I would also want to ensure that I'm also giving a hand up and not a hand down.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, Dr. Steve. That was amazing. That was really inspiring. So you remain there.
And then final slide is just to acknowledge as the chair. Yes, I'll be here, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you for the brilliant presentation. So you remain there. So we're going to, pass the floor to Lindsay Elton, Dr. Lindsay Elton, who is postdoctoral research associate at the Center for Clinical Microbiology at UCL. And I guess UCL is University of Central London, right? Great.
University College London.
Yes, University College London. Okay. She is part of the Pandora ID Net Consortium and the Network of Excellence for Tuberculosis, HIV, AIDS, and Malaria. She works on a number of different topics, including antimicrobial resistance, tuberculosis, whole genome sequencing, and capacity development. Thank you, Lindsay, for accepting to be one of us. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. And a very, very tidy office you have. Organization, I think, is an excellent skill for a leader. I will share my screen. Yes, so hello everybody, my name is Lindsay and I am also talking about the best leader that I have known and why. I think all of the talks today have been inspirational. Everybody has said such interesting and helpful things that I'm not sure how much I can really improve on as at this point in the workshop, but I'll give it a go. I agree with Steve actually in that personally in my own experience, I've not found one specific person who has been the best leader. and that actually, I think to be a good leader, you have to have a lot of skills, and I think you need to have a good team behind you. And this is especially important in international and also multidisciplinary groups. So no single person can be the perfect leader. I've also found, and certainly this is my opinion, that people think a good leader it's a very subjective area. What you and your personality sort of crave as a group member in terms of a leader might be different from somebody else. It might also depend on where you are in your career. And as I say, I think there are so many things and so many subjective parts to what might make a good leader. We can also only really be experts in so many areas. I see everybody here on the panel has multiple areas of expertise, but nobody can be an expert in everything. And so we need to take advice, I think, from many other people, because we are not islands, and we are also very, very human, and we all have weaknesses. And I think acknowledging them is really important. Now, I don't want to end on a negative, but I think it's an area that maybe we haven't necessarily touched so much on. We've had some really inspirational ways to become good leaders, but I'm sure everybody has had at some point in their career a person who they've thought, I'm not so sure I like the way you go about being a leader. So I just thought I'd put some things down, because I think understanding what makes you or what doesn't make you a good leader means you are aware of the things that would be a good idea to avoid potentially. So I've always found that bad management and bad leadership comes when a person kind of goes to an extreme. So this could be that they have either no time for people within their group, or they're at the other end of the scale and actually they micromanage people and don't give people a chance to kind of really flourish and show their independence. Having that balance in between, so providing time and guidance and expertise for people who need it, especially at the beginning of their career or when you're starting a new project, for instance. But as I say, letting people go and proving that they can, be independent researchers is really, really important. And having that balance is something that I think takes a lot of time to learn. In terms of management of activities, sometimes people sway towards being very unwilling to delegate, perhaps prefer to have sort of everything done in exactly their way. And again, at the other end of the scale, people are given far too much. And so the manager, the leader might sort of just delegate absolutely everything to their team. And again, trying to find a balance, I think is really key. Another thing in terms of sort of, I guess, personality really and how they approach their team members, some people can be incredibly sort of strict, and I think traditionally maybe in the scientific world, leaders and sort of academic sort of professors used to be quite sort of scary. And so perhaps people were afraid to share their feelings, the way they wanted to go about things, and also potentially ideas for fear of being shot down or labeled lazy or problematic. Equally, though, at the other end of the scale, over-friendliness can be a problem, and it may well instill a lack of confidence in their ability to be a leader. There are, of course, other things that mean leaders can be problematic. If they don't acknowledge your contributions, both scientifically and sort of as a general practical, the work that you do, they dismiss the ideas of their team and also from other groups and teams because they think they know best. Again, hopefully, I think this is kind of phasing out. And they have a do as I say, not as I do mentality. So that's what I have experienced so far, and what I hope that I have learned from now that I am starting to become a leader myself. But back to a positive, and to end on a positive, who do I think has been a good leader? So again, I don't have anyone specific in mind, but the people who I have had in my life who I believe have been good leaders and good mentors are people who have led by example. So again, like the example of the night shifts, they should be willing to step in and show the way. So whether that's workload, whether that's you know, writing papers, writing ideas down, that kind of thing. They should be willing to lead by example. They should have, as I pointed out earlier, have a balanced approach to the way that they deal with both their team and the work that they are doing. They should be fair and professional to everyone of all ranks. We are all human beings, and you should acknowledge all of the people as people and not just the rank that they are. They have been friendly, and something I personally find really, really nice and helpful is that they have a sense of humor, and that their team felt comfortable going to them with ideas and also problems. I've also really appreciated feeling acknowledged, and when people have sort of acknowledged my input, both, as I say, the sort of scientific input, but also my actual workload. When people are appreciated and managers and leaders appreciate and acknowledge that a person has put in, you know, a really good amount of work on a certain thing, it obviously, you know, everybody knows this, you will feel it yourself, you will have been inspired to, you know, do more and to put in more. And it's kind of a positive feedback cycle. And I think it's also important for these people, for leaders to appreciate the input from different cultures and potentially religions in different countries. Again, it's something that's been said so far quite a lot within this workshop. Everybody has a different angle that they're starting from, and to do, especially sort of global health, international health, you have to acknowledge what you're doing needs to have angles from, you know, from all sides and all disciplines. You know, One Health is a really important aspect now, so you should be taking advice from people from every kind of area of expertise to really sort of understand the research problems that you're trying to look at. It's always nice to have your ideas for the future acknowledged. So if you have good ideas, if you've gone to your leader, your manager, and said, look, this is what I think, you know, what do you think? People who have said, oh yeah, no, that sounds great. If it's not necessarily, you know, something that fits so far, maybe they will say, well, have you thought about it this way? Not just sort of shooting down your ideas entirely, sort of being encouraging, and again, something that's been said a lot, putting people on the path to their own sort of success, which helps to feed back into the team. Because we're all people, it's always really important, and they've been good because they have been self-aware and they know their own faults, they're aware and appreciate their faults, and they have aims to improve themselves to try and nullify those problems. So that's everything I had to say. So there's bad leadership, I think, and good leadership, and hopefully everybody is going to be somewhere in the middle.
Thank you so very much, Lindsay. We are going now to give the floor to Junior Musbangwa for the last speech of this panel, and then we'll go to multi-siting session with question and answers. Dr. Junior Musbangwa is a clinical microbiologist. She's senior clinical researcher at the Biomedical Research Institute in Zimbabwe, leading institute as PI, technical leads, and PI of BRTI sites of TESA. TESA is one of the EDCP networks, the Southern African network. So, Dr. Junior, the floor is all yours. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And how are you all? Firstly, I would want to apologize. I was supposed to have spoken yesterday. Unfortunately, I had some technical hitches and I couldn't join. So I joined today. I was not so sure whether I was going to present, but I take this opportunity to talk about what I know and what I think leadership is all about. Being one of those people that have gone through the journey of being mentored to where I am, and now being given the stick to pass on and mentor others in our context as Africans. So my journey has been quite long. BRTI, let me just talk about the BRTI. The BRTI is a not-for-profit making organization, which is a research organization, which is fairly young, started in 1995. Unfortunately, I didn't come up with any slides because I wasn't so sure of what was going to happen today. So I'll just do a free talk, which I hope is going to be informative.
It's fine.
So,
it's fine.
So BRTI is fairly young, was started in 1995 by a group of some lecturers within the universities in Zimbabwe. They realized that there was a lot of bureaucracy in terms of networking and coming up with a collaborative research within our setting. So it's actually like a research center that is there to provide some sort of open invitations to invest in researchers either within the country or outside the country. And we don't have any linkage to the ministry or to the government, but we actually, participate in the agendas of the country and the region. So far, there's a lot that has been happening in BRTA in the sense that that forum now has managed to attract a lot of researchers to our country and also from our region to our country. The research is really in the format of answering those questions that are related to policy change in terms of what informing the policy. So what we do is whatever we are doing, we look at the research agenda, and then looking at that research agenda, we then come up with research questions. Some of them, they will be given to us through grants that will be floated, and then we respond to them as long as we feel that those grants, they will provide us an opportunity to answer our research agendas. As BRTI, we are also part of the TESA, the Trust of Excellence in Southern Africa Consortium, which has been really, growing in leaps and bounds since the first TESA grant, which was in 2007. And at this stage, maybe I should tell you about my story, which I think can lead you to knowing who or how I came to be where I am and who are the people and how they managed to put me where I am. I'd like to talk about my predecessor, who was the Director General of BRTA, was Professor Peter Mason. He managed to identify my potential well in advance. I'm a lab scientist by profession and who has managed to go through all that to be now an almost also world-renowned researcher. As a medical lab scientist, usually you find that you are an introvert. You would want to stay behind the microscope, or you do spend a lot of time looking at tubes and answering to yourself with those tubes. But through the mentorship that I got from my mentor, Professor Mason, who was the Director General of BRTI, I managed to come out of the cocoon. I just want to echo what I think it was one of the earlier speakers who said, there are moments when confidence just you lose yourself in confidence and you lose everything. But it's the way that somebody make you feel confident that you can then realize your full potential. So it was in 2017, he was really on his deathbed. And then he just said, I was his student as a PhD student. And then he just wrote to the consortium and said, I don't think I'll make it, but I think BRTA will continue to be with the TESA consortium, and Junior is going to take over.
Yeah.
I spent sleepless nights. I didn't know where to start or what to do. But it was that confidence that brought me to where I am. And as such, I've now realized that I also have got a part to play in mentoring others, identifying the potential in others, exploring ways in which they can
Dr.
also.
Dr. Muswanga?
Hello?
Hello, Dr. Muswanga, do you hear me?
Yes.
This is very interesting, but because it is oral and we still have more time, I think you will stay tuned. We go to the discussion so that the question and answers, so that you may answer some of the questions saying what you are saying, so that we don't have duplicate, because it is interesting. And I think this can be the answers of some of the questions that have been asked so far.
Okay.
So I'm
All
sorry
right.
to interrupt you, but stay tuned because we're going to, go to the question and answer session. Yeah, so you stay there.
Yes, I really appreciate I'll be here.
Thank you, thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to, the question and answer section, and we have so many interesting questions, and that is why I feel compelled to stop Dr. Junior, because some of what she's saying come in some of the question, and that is why I kindly told her to stop, and she will answer to some of the questions. So let me take a quick question from. Let me see, just so many interesting questions. That is a French question. So I don't want the French-speaking people to think that we don't want to consider their question. So I'm going to tune into French and take one of the French-speaking questions. So yes, I mean, let me experience myself, the language. Voilà. Maintenant, je vais parler un peu français. Alors, nous avons une question qui a été posée par quelqu'un il s'appelle Jules depuis la RDC. Comment un leader peut gérer un groupe où il y a des anciens qui ont été dans d'autres recherches et qui pensent qu'ils connaissent tout, et d'autre part, des nouveaux qui n'ont pas d'expérience, mais se développent rapidement. Comment gérer ce genre de conflit dans un groupe? Did you hear the question in English?
No.
Well, so let me say it again in English.
I didn't hear, Chair. I didn't hear the question in English, but however, I guess the speaker, the person who's asking the question is just finding out how you can get the integration between people who think they know it all and with people who are still growing. And I mean, how do you run a team with such people? How do you, how do you leadership qualities in this kind of group?
Yes, this is a little conflict. You have old leaders and new leaders who grow quickly, and it brings conflict. So how do you sort it out?
I think this is a very challenging question, I would say. Coming from Africa, that can even be more challenging because when you're in a team where you have people who are unteachable, if things change, they don't want to receive that change. And so it's a very difficult thing. I would say this, I think now your personal leadership qualities and your relationship count in this situation. Because these are very difficult people and you need to go to their side to be able to bring them out from there. I guess you know what I mean. So we find it a lot in many African teams, but I think that everybody likes anything that has results. Now, if the team that is so new, so to speak, or that is still getting developed or still being built up, is doing great things and there's some results that you can show, I think that's another way of also pulling people who are very unteachable to come to join. So it's a very difficult thing. I don't think I have a very clear a way of going about that.
All right, thank you. Thank you so very much. Let me take a question. Somebody want to say something?
Oh, yes, I just wanted to
Go
add
ahead.
a little thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I wanted to take the question in another angle, because I think the person was asking, how do you manage when you join a team where there are people in that team for very long
Mhm.
and they think they know everything,
Mhm.
and you also have newcomer? How do you manage lead in such a situation? And what I wanted to add to what Dr. Akinde said is, not everything old is bad, and not everything new is good. So you also have to bring a kind of smooth transition, even if you have a lot of idea. Don't try to change everything from today to tomorrow. It will be hard for people to cope with you. And again, if the transition is smooth, you will definitely use your personal thread, as Dr. Akinde was saying, to collaborate with all the team and make them understand why the idea, the new things you are bringing is worth not only for the team, but for each of them individually.
Thank you so very much.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to add a small thing there. I would go back to what you said about humbleness. I think as a leader, humbleness pays. Whenever you have such a situation, I would actually think it's better to be humble, wait a bit and learn the dynamics of the team, and then build the new way forward with the some information and some additions from the people that are around you. Was the moment you come in and you show them that maybe you are for the new team or you are for the old team, then it becomes you sort of polarize the whole team, and in the end you have a lot of problems. So I think humbleness and a listening ear to start with, and then build on that, will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. We have more questions, and we have a question from Alexander Waiganjo Macharia. The person says, most of the talk, it means all of you, your talks, have been on how to maintain and strengthen the team. Has any of the presenters, any of you, got to a point where they had to let go a member of their staff? If this had happened, how did you manage this without affecting the performance of the rest of the team members? Yes, Dr. Muswanga, because you are from your position, have you ever let somebody go, and how did you handle this?
Well, there's need to be, as a leader, to be transparent and focused. There's an issue of having, like, I think there was a presentation where it was said you don't need to be too friendly. You need to balance friendliness and astuteness in terms of deliverables and what you'd have agreed as a team. Yes. So if we have got the terms of references well laid up, it means you have got a reference where you can go back to, which has been agreed upon. And then it makes life easy in terms of what sort of action to take in case somebody has not been gelling well with the team. And usually when you have very clear terms of references, you also have got very clear ways of dealing with any issues that may arise. So it becomes like a system that is working against a person, but not you as a person working against another person. Because you have references. I think that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Chair,
Yes.
what I wanted to chime in is just to say that it's inevitable. We'll always have people come in and leave the system because it's an open system.
Exactly.
We have funding that usually have very finite timelines. And so it's always important to remind staff that in the event that funding does not come, just like Brenda was saying earlier, that we've made an attempt to apply for different grants proposals that have not gone through. And so it's nice to utilize the HR, human resources systems, so that one, staff are being notified in good time, whether it is 3 months to the end of the contract, and encouraging people within the organization to make applications, because we usually have colleagues who are having new projects coming in. And so it calls upon such kind of team members who may be leaving to look at opportunities that are existing within. It may not be within TB, HIV, or malaria, but it could be something else. And they really need to be very flexible and open to other opportunities that come. So I come from a background where I've been able to sit in most of the meetings for my staff, being the head. And sometimes people would want to call me as Mr. Fix-It in terms of saying bye at very tough moments. But Chair, you know very well, you have to inform people. You have to encourage them that it's not the end of the world. And it's just that things will definitely open up. We usually say within our HR system that they don't have to reapply if an opportunity comes available within 6 months. So those are messages that we are able to let them hang on to. But at the same time, we stay in contact with them, asking them to update their CVs. We'll be able to let them know as opportunities come. Thank you.
Thank you also very much. We have so many questions, and I would love to sit here again to talk and talk. Unfortunately, we have to keep the time. We are leaders, and one of the qualities of the leaders is to keep time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are heading to the end of our sessions, and I will hand over to my colleague and friend, Leonard, who will give a presentation. What I would suggest is to remain in touch. You can send your question to the Global Health Network, and we can divert them to the different presenters, and we can remain a team to really share knowledge, to continue sharing knowledge. This is what I would suggest, because we have so many good questions, but we cannot answer to all of them. Leonard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, JPA. Thank you for the chair. It was excellent. I believe all of us are really happy, and we have gained so much. And we always say, as our colleague, Dr. Brenda said, coming together is the beginning. We are actually coming together. This is a network, and the network will continue to flourish. Who is behind the network? Because most participants are always curious. Who are these? Where are they coming from? How do they come about this activity? Actually, we are the networks of excellence, which is EDCP-sponsored projects, and it's from diverse setups. As the Jean-Pierre said, we have Kantam, Wanatam. Kantam is central, Wanatam is east, and Tessa south, and Eka is east. So it's all about coming and building the network, having ideas, and then bringing it together, and then we make our ideas flourish. And it's by so doing that we'll grow. So any participant who is interested to know more about what we are doing, they can go to Wanatam, which is the link is here. They can go also to Eka. The link of Eka is here, and Kantam and Tessa. So they will get more on how to be involved. So looking at, that is the network of excellence. Looking at the other part of the network, you have ALERRT and Pandora. It's actually contribution to epidemic preparedness. This is also sponsored by EDCP. So EDCP is actually behind us for a growth and development. So definitely we are working together as a network. And if you are interested, you can join the network by going to the links, our website, trying to understand what is happening and how you can get involved. And we have the Global Health Network, who has the platform. The Global Health Network has the platform for growth for all of us. All the participants can get involved by linking up with the Global Health Network and seeing the knowledge hub, how they can contribute, how they can fill their research gap and then upgrade themselves. So we want to thank you all for being part of this team and being part of this workshop. Just seeing above 500 of us being in this workshop is great. And from here, we will go up and up and up, and then we'll meet our target. Thank you all for your participation and wish you all a great weekend.
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you, Leonard. We are nearly at the end. And thank you for your participation, for your massive participation in this workshop. And thank you for the panel. Thank you for accepting to be speaker in this, this two-day webinar. Thank you to the organizers. It's been tremendous. So we've received so many comments and questions, and we are happy. So we don't want to keep them in the trash. So we will gather all of these together, and we will ask our panel to respond to them in writing. Yeah, the recording of these sessions, along with additional material, will be shared also. The link to where you'll be able to find this will be also posted in the chat box below, so you can have it in the chat spot below. We would be grateful if you could complete the evaluation form, as we said initially, for this workshop, because you'll be sent certificates. We are sharing the link for this in the chat now, and this will also be shared by email. Once again, thank you all so very much for this two-day presentation. Thank you to the panelists and to you all for your participation. We will now close this session, hoping that we'll have more opportunity to meet. Thank you and goodbye.